Despite all of Moscow's threats, NATO is expanding. Alliance planes and missiles will be even closer to Russia, and it has already been openly stated that this is part of Ukraine's security guarantees.
They could jointly patrol Ukrainian airspace with the Ukrainian Air Force and ensure a regime where nothing would be flying over Ukraine.
We are talking about the newest NATO airbase, which has been decided to be located in Romania. Its construction is progressing at an accelerated pace, and when the facility is ready, it will be a true stronghold capable of repelling air, missile, and naval attacks, gathering unique intelligence, and at any moment deploying thousands of troops to neutralize potential threats in the region. We decided to find out what the largest NATO military base in Southern Europe will be like. What types of weaponry will be stationed there? How will this help Ukraine? Why does even the mere mention of this facility cause hysteria in Moscow, and how might Putin respond to it? You can find out all about this right now on Arsenal. At first, the construction was kept under the strictest secrecy, but later the details were revealed. NATO rightly calculated that a facility of this scale would be visible even from space. So they openly declared, yes, we are building the largest airbase in Europe on the site of an already existing one in Romania.
There was already one there, a small one. It houses the central command of NATO forces in Europe. That's about 5,000 people.
And now it will be twice as many. But even the number of military personnel won't be the main threat to the alliance's enemies. After all, this isn't Russia, where everything is measured by manpower. The technical equipment of the base is its main advantage, because literally all of NATO's advanced weaponry will be stationed there, from F-35 aircraft to, according to rumors, even laser weapons.
A lot of money is being invested in the base, understanding that in the near future the threat may come from the Russian Federation or possibly from Iran. So if you look at the political map of the world, the location of this base here is actually quite logical, because once again this is the Black Sea and it can be positioned closer to Turkey. Turkey is also a member of the alliance. Plus it's about countering the Russian Federation. That's why this isn't being done for the short term, it's being done for years, for decades.
According to preliminary estimates alone, about 2.5 billion euros are planned to be spent on construction. And that's not surprising, because the military facility will resemble more of a small city. The local Mihail Kogalnishanu base is set to be expanded to a grand scale. The perimeter of the facility alone will be more than 30 kilometers.
It will be designed to accommodate 10,000 people with their families. And in addition, there will be a runway capable of handling all types of aircraft. So most likely there will be more than one runway, one for combat aircraft and another for transport aircraft. Plus the area is said to be 2,800 hectares, just for the record. So this is a very serious base, considering that, for example, for comparison, the military base near Listroy, the warehouses in the Russian Federation, cover only 130 hectares.
The command has not forgotten about those who will have to serve at the new base, many of whom will be there for more than just a year. That's why, in addition to military infrastructure, they also considered civilian facilities. According to the plan, the site will even include a hospital, shops, and even schools and kindergartens. At the same time, NATO does not hide the reasons why it decided to expand its presence specifically in Romania. The answer is simple: to more effectively control Russia, to obtain intelligence in the Black Sea region more quickly, and to respond more rapidly to threats that Moscow could pose at any moment.
There is a similarly large base now in Ramstein, Germany, but it is far from the Russian Federation. So by the time you need to redeploy, by the time the tanks and everything else are moved over, and here the equipment will be in Romania, right next to Moldova, and here is Hungary, everything can be moved very quickly. Plus there's control over the waters of the Black Sea, meaning reconnaissance aircraft will be stationed there. That's why I think this improves the response time to any potential problem.
Given the current relationship between the alliance member countries and Ukraine, it becomes clear that this base will also address our issues. At the same time, there are several scenarios here. The obvious one is that the largest NATO logistics hub will now be just 100 kilometers from Ukraine's border.
This could give us some advantage once again in training our military. We can use the repair facilities. This is actually a real possibility, that we could quickly move, for example, our damaged equipment through Moldova and further into Romania. There it gets repaired and then returns. So yes, this is something that could happen. Ammunition supply. There will be large warehouses there. Well, that's one option.
And the second option, which hasn't been articulated quite as clearly yet, but judging by today's rhetoric from Europe, is quite obvious. The updated base will become the foundation for future cooperation between the armed forces of Ukraine and the NATO army, a place for the safe storage of equipment for planning operations, and a launch point for joint squadrons to patrol Ukrainian territory.
An intermediate option is being considered where, for example,
squadrons of combat aircraft would be strategically stationed at airfields in Poland and Romania, but they could, together with the Ukrainian Air Force, effectively patrol Ukrainian airspace and enforce a strict regime where absolutely nothing would fly over Ukraine, a complete no-fly zone. This crucial measure could be either temporary or permanent, specifically for missiles and enemy combat aircraft.
At the same time, the upgraded Mihail Kogalnicianu base will likely also remain a key intelligence-gathering center for the Ukrainian armed forces.
The airport in Constanța has already played a very important role for several years in providing Ukraine with intelligence data, and we know that NATO has strategically deployed additional military forces to provide crucial intelligence-gathering capabilities in the vital Black Sea region. Furthermore, the main resources, specifically squadrons of NATO aircraft, are permanently based at the strategically important airfield in Constanța at the Mihail Kogalnicianu International Airport.
And NATO's investments specifically in this region and the construction of a base near Ukraine are clear evidence that the alliance is determined to support official Kyiv for many years to come and to define Moscow as the main threat in Europe.
This, of course, fits into the overall picture of continued support for Ukraine, as weapon supplies are delivered to Ukraine precisely through this aviation hub, and this is also a very significant and substantial expansion of NATO's overall capabilities in the foreseeable future to effectively contain Russia in the strategically important Black Sea region. And Russia has already, let's say, reacted to this particular development with a great deal of caution and circumspection.
But what about Russia? Since Soviet times, the largest airbase in the Russian Federation remains the Engels military airfield. Nothing new has been built in Russia since the collapse of the USSR. However, even without the NATO base in Romania, Engels is not going through the best of times after the drone raids by the GUR and the phenomenal SBU Operation Web. All the aircraft were simply removed from the airfield just to be safe and sent to the Far East. It is known that this airport was a base for Tu-160 and Tu-95 strategic bombers which regularly strike Ukraine. There are also several hangars there for aircraft maintenance, ammunition storage, and a couple of air defense systems like the S-300. And that's pretty much it. There's really nothing to say about any infrastructure like schools or comfortable accommodations for military personnel. The area looks more like a location from the game Estial Chiar than a modern 21st century military base of the world's largest nuclear power. That's why completely different responses are expected from Russia regarding the construction in Romania.
Of course, Moscow is not ready for open military confrontation at this point, but through provocations, they can put pressure on public opinion and, in this way, directly influence decision-making at the government level.
However, it is becoming increasingly difficult to do so. Compared to peacetime, every educated resident of Europe, especially citizens of countries located near Russia and Belarus, knows what weapons Russia has, how fast they travel, and what kind of destruction they can cause. So any new NATO base is perceived positively by the locals. And judging by the logic of the alliance, after Ukraine's possible accession to NATO, it's not hard to guess where the next base will be, conveniently positioned to monitor Russia. Did you like this video? Then don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our Arsenal channel. The link is in the description below the video.